Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast. We are talking bowls for this week. We are talking the college football first round of the playoffs. I am Drew Martin, joined by Jeff Nadeau at Jeff Nadeau on Twitter. He's got the Sit Down podcast, knows his college football. Hey, maybe a little college basketball if we're lucky enough. But without further ado, Jeff, welcome on in, bud. How you feeling?
Doing great, Drew. Let's get into it. Bowls are here. For anyone that tells you you can't make money on bowls, who cares about bowls? There's ways you make money. I made money last night. Let's hopefully make money going forward.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you. I like betting bowls. So we're going to get into it, guys. Going down in order of kickoff. If you're new to every game in the board, it's right in the name. We talk every single game on the college football slate. So we got Wednesday, December 17th. That is when we are doing the podcast. If you're listening on replay, and the first game we're going to be talking, it is a doubleheader Wednesday night. We got the happy hour special here, Jeff, 5:00 Eastern. ODU in South Florida. That's Old Dominion versus South Florida in Camping World Stadium. It is in Orlando. That is not UCF's home stadium. It's the Citrus Bowl pretty much. So it's very close to the USF, just right down I-4. ODU going to have a little bit more of a travel situation, but it doesn't always affect the outcome of the game. Just wanted to throw that out there. And we are seeing USF, the Bulls, -3.5 or -4, kind of a split line as the quote-unquote home favorite, 52 and a hook being the total. Again, 5:00 Eastern kickoff, nationally televised on ESPN. What are you thinking of the first of the doubleheader bowl action Wednesday night here, Jeff?
Yeah, I saw some stuff on Twitter. There was a guy from RAS that was talking about how he didn't really understand this line. And I got to be honest, I don't know that I did either, right? So you're essentially telling me that, like, during the season, Drew, like, how would I don't get this price. South Florida should be, to me, closer to 6 than 3. No, I mean, essentially it's a home game. I thought they were the better team. They played better competition. They're pretty much better at every position. They're both not going to have their quarterbacks. I feel like this number is starting to kind of show what the number probably I thought more should be. I still think there's probably some value on the Bulls here. I think the under is probably worth the look for anyone that's not aware. South Florida not going to have Byron Brown. They're going to have their 2 wide receivers, their top running back. Their coach is gone. Old Dominion going to go with a redshirt freshman at quarterback. He's more of a running quarterback. Their quarterback, Colton Joseph, is not with the program anymore. So it's really a mismatch here. But as you alluded to, South Florida, again, getting this game essentially at home, not too far away. I think they're the better unit overall. I think they probably have the better defense. Now, I'm sure they'll have some opt-outs on that side of the ball as well. But I think if you're an offensive player, you've got to look to be excited. I mean, Brian Hartline coming in as an offensive guy from Ohio State. I think South Florida is the play here. To me, anything under 6 would probably be worth a look here. I didn't quite get there on playing this one, but I think at this number, it's probably still worth a look.
Yeah, Jeff, what you were teeing up in the beginning, I agree with you. Like, if these two teams were playing, let's just call it week 8 of the season, USF would be more than a touchdown favorite.
Yeah. Right? I mean, they would be probably – I would play 6, I would say. I mean, 5.5, 6. I just thought 2.5, 3 – I didn't ultimately get there and playing it just because, again, you do look at it's not week 8 and they don't have everybody in there. And look, losing your top 2 receivers, the quarterback for South Florida, Gaston Moore, is kind of an interesting story. Hits his first start and his last start. His career's over after this. And you look at his life as a quarterback, it's kind of been tough in college. He was at South Florida, obviously, and they had Byron Brown. He was also at one point at Tennessee. They had Nico and Joe Milton. He's kind of moved all over the place, and he's never gotten the ability to start. So I would have to think he would be okay in this game. Again, Old Dominion has a backup in there too.
Yeah, interesting setup there. First and last start. You don't see that a lot. And just lastly on the line move, I think it's a lot to do with Byron Brown, obviously the head coach taking the Auburn gig. But it's more because I think Byron Brown is just a great player, Jeff.
Yeah.
And so more people kind of equate him not playing and maybe USF doesn't look as good. That's kind of maybe the last thing I would say.
Yeah, and look, I mean, they're also not going to have Their top receiver, Chaz Nimrod, he's a very good player. They're not going to have Christian Neptune, who was a top receiver for them. One of their tight ends, Cartavius Norton's been out. They have a bunch of guys defensively, Chenault, Taven Ward, Denard Flowers. I mean, they've got a bunch of guys that are probably not going to play on defense too. So it is a lot going here. I just feel like the line should be probably a little higher.
Yeah, in agreement there, Jeff. Good start here, guys, as we got next one up, the second of the doubleheader for Hump Day here. We got the 68 Ventures Bowl from Hancock Whitney Stadium, Mobile, Alabama. This is where the Senior Bowl is played. And it's UL Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns, versus Delaware. That would be the Blue Hens. Of course, making the jump up from FCS to FBS and getting the bowl bid here. We get -2. That's Lafayette as the favorite, 61 and a hook being the total. Kind of almost same setup in terms of location, a lot closer for one of these teams, that being UL Lafayette. But Delaware, they're going to be excited. Their first bowl game in program history, and they're catching 2.5. Kind of an interesting handicap here for the Wednesday nightcap, Jeff.
Yeah, I actually played this, Drew. I took the over 60.5 here. I think this is a first to 30 wins type of game. Louisiana's been in kind of shootouts all season. Whether it's Howard or Lunch Winfit, a quarterback, I think both are quality and will move the ball. This Delaware team has struggled to stop the run all year. Not a real good defense. Delaware has gotten in shootout after shootout all season. I mean, I go Drew to the final game of the season when they played UTEP, 61-31, 59-30 against Liberty. I mean, when this team goes on the road, Drew, they've struggled at times defensively, quite frankly. Gave up 38 to Jack State, gave up a big number to Middle Tennessee. UConn put a bunch of points on them. They're not a real good defensive team. And you look at Delaware on offense, if I told you, Drew, they were a top 10 passing offense, you probably wouldn't believe me, but they are. Minicucci was terrific all season. And the only thing that really bothered this group at times was the kind of screwing around in the red zone. Occasionally they would like fumble or, whatever. But I mean, they have a pretty good red zone touchdown efficiency number. They have a good quarterback who will sling it around. Louisiana Lafayette, Drew, not real good against the pass. I think they were 80th nationally. Didn't exactly play a murderer's row or anything either. And you look at every game that should have been a shootout, it was a shootout. 42-39 against Texas State, 35-23 against Troy, even. That's a high one. 34-30 against against Arkansas State, 54-51 against Marshall, 34-31 against Eastern Michigan. So I've had no trouble going back and forth. I think with decent weather in Mobile, I think this is 34-31, 35-30. I think this is a fun game. Sidewise, I think if you like Delaware, the number's gone at this point. 3 was probably a good one there. I think you definitely have a motivated Delaware group here. As you alluded to, it's their first Division I season. Ryan Carty did a great job there. And, under Kent DeSormo, Louisiana, I think is 1-3 in bowls. I'm not running to back them. I think it's a fun one back and forth. Plenty of points here.
Good point on the head coaching bowl record. I didn't pick that one up coming into it because I kind of like Lafayette as a side here, Jeff. Now I get what you're saying. Going to be excited. And actually, hats off to you. We've been doing the show all season long, and it's just the way it's set up. We talked Delaware a bunch this season, and I remember you on Minicucci early in the season. I watched him play. He can definitely slang it, no doubt about it. The reason I was looking towards the Raging Cajuns is because I think top to bottom of the roster, they're a little more talented. They're bigger up front, and that's one thing I think Delaware will struggle with, particularly defensively. And I agree with you. If I'm betting the total, it's over.
Right. And that's why I like the over, because, I mean, Delaware was straight up bad against the run. And I think you make good points in the term of, if Lunch Winfield's quarterback, I think the run game could really kind of batter that defensive line for Delaware. As you alluded to, they're still small given the circumstances as to who they're playing against. I don't really want to pick a winner here. I want to bank on points, and I think we'll see plenty of them here.
Sure. And lastly, on your point, in the last 2 weeks with Delaware, what they scored more than 60 against UTEP in their last game, and they let up more than 50 against Wake Forest the week before. that's a profile where I don't want to bet that team under. You know
Well,
what I mean?
and that's a great point. I mean, Wake Forest, I mean, for anyone that didn't watch them, I mean, that offense was dreadful all
I
year.
know.
And then they give up a 52 spot. Like you should be giving up 35 maybe to Wake, but 52.
Mhm.
You also look tonight. I mean, weather looks really nice. I mean, 60s. No wind. I mean, it's not going to be 25 degrees. Should be plenty of moving the ball around, and I think this is one of those wild type of games.
All right. Good breakdowns here for the Wednesday. We got one game on Thursday, December 18th. It's the Xbox Bowl, Ford Center at the Star, Frisco, Texas. I believe this game used to be or still is the Bahamas Bowl, but they're redoing the stadium down there in the Bahamas, so they moved it to Frisco, Texas. For whatever that's worth, it's 9:00 Eastern Thursday night. It's Missouri State and Arkansas State. We are seeing what the Red Wolves, Arkansas State, -1.5, tight line here, Jeff. 54.5 being the total. Missouri State, the same boat as Delaware. First stepping up from the FCS level and getting a bowl bid. They're going to be excited. Arkansas State, hey, they've rattled off some wins as well. So what are you thinking here in Frisco Thursday night?
Yeah, I thought this line was pretty good. It's probably the toughest bowl game, really, to me. Like if you're just looking at matchups, I don't think you're going to get many opt-outs here. I mean, obviously Missouri State, I think you get a motivated team to want to win a bowl in their first season. Arkansas State, I mean, they had to win their final game of the season just to get bowl eligible. You look at both these teams. I mean, it's a mere coin flip. Neither are particularly strong ATS. They're just kind of even. I will point out, I mean, Missouri State, I think you could use the same handicap you just did with Delaware, where maybe they're a little undersized, maybe up front. And then in the trenches, that's going to be a little problematic here, maybe. I was just kind of mumbling this one, didn't see much value in it. I also will point out, Missouri State, when they stepped up and played better teams in their conference, they generally struggled. Their only wins really kind of came against the bad teams in the conference, and they didn't really blow anyone out that much. You look at the fact, I mean, beat Middle Tennessee by 2, needed overtime to beat New Mexico State, beat UTEP, pulled away late. But every time they stepped up, La Tech, Kennesaw, West Kentucky, they lost. So I don't have a lot of interest in Missouri State. Lean Arky State money line, but it's a tough one. It's probably the toughest bowl game to me.
Yeah, sidewise this is tough. I spent a lot of time on it. I'll say this about Missouri State: their quarterback Jacob Clark, he's a pretty good quarterback, and it almost leads me to mid-50s total. I kind of could see more points here, Jeff. If
I made it
something.
Yeah, I made it 55. So I think I could see it, mid-50s. Maybe it gets up and over, but I just don't. I don't bet a ton of Sun Belt, quite honestly, and CSA for that matter too. So to me, again, this is a true coin flip. Again, I think you have the slight edge to Arky State just because of they are a D1 program. They maybe just get slightly bigger, better athletes, but these are two just very even teams to me.
Yeah, and also on the location of this, Jeff, this is the Ford Center at the Start. I believe this is the Cowboys practice facility, and it looked like a fast track. It's not a big place. Like it should be a kind of cool atmosphere. I believe this is the first bowl game played here. I could be off on that, but kind of a unique situation in terms of the venue Thursday night.
For sure. Yeah, I don't imagine I'll be betting this. I don't imagine I'll be watching it either. But
what else you got going on Thursday night, man?
I'll probably watch, college basketball probably, or, I don't know, play poker or something. I don't know. But I don't know. Then again, though, the college basketball slate on Thursday is not particularly good either. So maybe I will watch it. I don't know.
I'll tell you, the college basketball scheduling early in the season, it's loaded up on Saturday and Wednesday. And the rest of the week, there's not much. I don't remember it like that in past years.
And that's the issue. Like for Saturday, like for me, like Arizona in basketball plays San Diego State. That's a great game. But you had the playoff and stuff. You look at the other games on Saturday. Kentucky St. John's, Texas Tech Duke, Auburn Purdue, Arky Houston. Kentucky St. There's just there's a ton. It's a shame, but it is what it is.
All right. Well, we got Friday action up next. It looks like 3 games on Friday, including the playoff first rounder Alabama Oklahoma. But before that, looks like we got an early kick. Friday, December 19th, Myrtle Beach Bowl in Brooks Stadium, Conway, South Carolina. This is where Coastal Carolina's home field is. 11 a.m. I believe that's 11 a.m. Eastern, so real early here. Kennesaw State and Western Michigan. We are seeing the Broncos, Western Michigan, what the MAC champions here, minus 3-point home favorites, 47 and a hook being the total. Kennesaw State, what they were able to do in Conference USA. I will say, Jeff, before I hand it over to you, this is what Conference USA versus the MAC. In my opinion, the two kind of lowest in terms of talent conferences, but two teams that, hey, played very well in their conferences. It's a great matchup overall. Western Michigan -3, 47 and a hook being the total, Jeff.
Yeah, this should be a good game, man. You know, two good programs that played well this season. You know, you look at Western Michigan, just a stout defensive team, man. Really, really good. I've kind of raved about Nadame Tucker, a kid they have on the defensive end there. He's a guy that's going to play at the next level, and he is going to be a problem for opposing defenses in the NFL. He is terrific. Kind of reminds me of like a Max Crosby type, you know, coming from the MAC as well. I'm a big fan of his. I would love that he plays in this game. I think he's the one potential opt-out that I'm worried about. But you look at Western Michigan, Jalen Buckley came back, ran the ball well against Miami O. That defense was terrific. You look at Kennesaw, obviously run the ball at a high level under Jerry Mack. This is a Western Michigan team, though, very good against the run. I like them a little bit more in this matchup. I think they'll obviously be very up for it. I actually laid 3.5 at Western Michigan here. I think this game could be a lot like the MAC title game, where it's kind of a game played in the 20s and the late teens. But to me, 3.5 is just a little too low. I kind of had it 24-14, something like that. I like Kennesaw, but I think to me, you're stepping up a little bit. This is a smash mouth football team. It's going to be hard to run on them. And can they find another way to move the football if the run's not working? I will say maybe the dynamic Amari Odom, maybe he gets out on the run a little bit. It's kind of a cagey game. Two good teams, two teams I like. But I do lean Western here to get the job done. I think they shut down Kennesaw.
Yeah, tough to disagree. I like the breakdown, Jeff. And if I didn't say it at the top, these are both the conference champions, Conference USA and MAC going at it. And, 10 wins versus 9 wins. So great matchup overall kicking off Friday. We got next one.
This is one other thing here. This is I think a great under spot. 47.5 seems too high to me. I could see this, maybe 23-20, 24-14, like I said. I mean, a case in point, Kennesaw looking back, I remember when they hung right with Wake, and because I was pretty high on Wake's defense, I thought, wow, Kennesaw's got a pretty decent team. That could be a similar game here. This could be a real tough one, just a knockdown, drag-out affair.
I agree with you. I could definitely see the under, but do you ever kind of pump the brakes on bowl game unders with the kind of like loose atmosphere, maybe trick plays coming in, things of that nature? Does that ever keep you off of an under?
No, because I think both these teams are very motivated to win this game, right? Maybe that'll hurt just late in the game with like maybe you go for 2 instead of going for 1 and you're chasing points or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's always, I think that could help the under sometimes too. And, when you look at explosive plays, I mean, I don't know, these two teams aren't particularly big play offenses. I guess it's possible, but I mean, you look at Kennesaw, Drew, just not real explosive. Western Michigan, they were a group who, definitely like to run the football more than throw it. So yeah, I think it's close to the vest personally.
Sure, Jeff. As we got the middle game here on Friday, it is Memphis and NC State. This is the Gasparilla Bowl, Raymond James Stadium, Tampa, Florida. That is where the Bucks and USF play their home games. We're seeing NC State -4 and a hook pretty much across the board, 58.5 being the total. Memphis, NC State, 2:30 Eastern in the Gasparilla Bowl, Jeff.
Yeah, I heard Dave Dorr, and I have to give him a lot of respect for his comments on opt-outs, and he kind of essentially said, we don't believe in that here. If you start something, you finish it, and I think that's really the thought I have as we continue seeing more and more people quit and move on. I think when you signed to go to a school, you owe them to play the game, especially in the age of the NIL where you're being paid to do it. It looks like most of NC State, I think, are going to play here, including CJ Bailey, their quarterback, which I think is good if you like NC State and you like the over. The NC State struggled all year to stop anybody. Memphis, you're going to deal with not having Silverfield. But I think if you're a Memphis fan, you're a Memphis player, I think you've got to be pretty excited for what's coming in. This Charles Huff, I'm a big fan of. I think a lot of these guys you'd have to imagine want to kind of remain there. And then he's not going to be around as far as doing anything football wise, but I think a lot of them will play as well. I think this will be a pretty good game, pretty fun game. I haven't heard much in a way of opt-outs with these teams, so I would imagine both will be in there.
Jeff, I know you know a lot of kind of the background into NIL and stuff, probably more than I do. If you don't, that's fine. But just kind of a point here, I believe the NIL is paid weekly, and therefore these players are being paid to play in the bowl game, correct?
I believe so. I mean, I don't exactly know how they're paid. I think they're paid in like a lump sum amount. I could be wrong there. I don't. I have to consult with like some sort of NIL coordinator. I'd love to know that. That's actually not a bad question. But I just think Doran said essentially, essentially, if you're opting out, you're throwing in the towel. I don't understand opt-outs, period. And I agree with that. I think both these teams will have most of their guys in there. And that's why these are tough. But if both teams have their full complement, you'd have to assume this is a fun game. I mean, both teams are pretty explosive a lot of the time. And I think you mentioned kind of letting it all hang out. I think these are two teams that will do that. You're not gonna be punting a lot. You're gonna take shots. You're gonna try trick plays, that sort of thing. And generally, as you mentioned, that does suit the over. I think you'd see that here. I don't know if these two teams, you're going to want to try things, especially Memphis with a whole new regime coming in.
Sure. Good point there, Jeff. We got the next 4 games, guys. The college football playoff first round, and it goes Friday night. Alabama and Oklahoma, the first playoff game here, 8:00 Eastern. And it is Alabama now, -1 as the favorite. There is 1.5 out there. That is the Crimson Tide as the road favorite, 40 and a hook being the total. This is a rematch. These two teams played not too long ago in a tight game. Alabama had 3 turnovers. Interesting handicap. This is a fun one Friday night. Norman's going to be rocking. Tough atmosphere for Alabama. But what are you thinking? First playoff game up, Alabama and Oklahoma here, Jeff.
Yeah, so I played Oklahoma in this game. I grabbed the 1.5 with the Sooners, which I got to tell you, I'm pretty surprised by that. I mean, they're at home here. As you alluded to, they won the first game. They were terrific defensively. You only allowed 7 points in the second half. Oklahoma, Drew, I think this is the concern of your Alabama. Oklahoma only had 212 total yards and still won the game. Alabama outgained them by about 200 yards. But again, as you talked about, turnovers, 3 for Alabama, none for Oklahoma. And that's what this game is going to come down to. I look at the defenses. Give me Oklahoma. Give me Oklahoma's offense with Mateer over Simpson. I think they're one-dimensional occasionally. They can't run the ball. Mm-hmm. I think throwing the ball against Oklahoma is obviously very difficult. Obviously, it's a revenge game. It's hard to beat a team twice. I think you can make a case that Alabama doesn't belong here. That doesn't matter now. I don't really remember, and I've said this many times, I don't know that I was ever truly impressed with Alabama at any point this season. And I think, I bet against them in the SEC title, and it was an easy winner. I don't think they should be in this playoff, but they are. I don't think they'll beat Oklahoma. I've been more impressed with Oklahoma. Their defense is really good. John Mateer is fully healthy now. But I think I could also say the same thing about Oklahoma. I don't know if at any point I was ever truly impressed by them either. I mean, you look at the 2 step-up games, they lost to Texas and they lost to Ole Miss. Now, that game against Texas, they didn't have Mateer, and he was just coming back from being hurt against Ole Miss. So there is an asterisk there. But the small margin of error here. Give me the home team as a dog. I'll lean that way.
Jeff, to piggyback on what you're talking about here, and people are going to say, oh, this is an Auburn guy talking about Alabama, but I don't feel that this is a vintage Alabama team. I think Ty Simpson is actually a pretty good quarterback, and he covered some of the holes. But at the same time, I'm not sold on Oklahoma. If you want a bold take, I think it's Georgia in the SEC, and I think Georgia is the only one that has a legit, like a real good shot at winning the national championship. I don't think Ole Miss, I don't think Oklahoma, I don't think Alabama. I don't think they're going to pull it off. Now they could, but any thoughts on that?
I think, to me, I agree. It's funny. I did take a flyer, Drew, on Oklahoma. I think they're the biggest odds in this, outside of obviously the JMUs and the Tulanes. And it's just because I think defensively they're very good. And, I was pretty high on John Mateer going to Oklahoma. Maybe now that he's fully healthy, we get, that vintage player. I think as long as he doesn't turn the football over, he's as good as any quarterback you'll find. We'll see. I do like Ole Miss too a little bit. I just think that the chip on their shoulder. I like Trinidad Chambliss a lot. Has their defense taken a step forward? We'll see. But yeah, I think Georgia's probably the one team that I truly think can win. I don't think there's a vintage Alabama team too. I'll throw in also, they struggled in finding their top players, right? Their receivers. There was an asterisk next to their two big guys, Williams and Bernard. Why aren't they throwing to them? Why aren't they getting them involved? I think they're a work in progress, and I think Oklahoma is just, to me, slightly better than them.
And lastly, Jeff, do you think there's anything to this ESPN bias? Like even Chris Fowler introducing the SEC championship game, he was like, Georgia in the playoff. It's virtually Alabama lock for the playoff. And I remember thinking to myself, why is he saying that? Like Notre Dame and Miami, in my opinion, should have went before Alabama. Again, this is an Auburn guy talking about Alabama, but do you think there's anything to that ESPN bias towards Alabama?
Well, of course. I heard Nick Saban talking about how great Alabama was. Yeah, listen, these guys they understand it's a business. And I do think, like, if you want me to tell you what I truly think, I'd much rather see Alabama than Tulane or JMU. The fact that JMU's in this is a complete joke. I'm still trying to understand. And I've said before, the biggest problem the college football playoff has is one, okay? We should not have G5 teams in this. And the only way you should is if they are undefeated the whole way through, okay? So if, for instance, let's say JMU would have beat Louisville and then won their tournament, put them in.
Yeah.
But if you have a loss or two, or like Tulane lost by 20 plus to UTSA, they shouldn't be in this, period. You should only have G5 teams if they're truly transcendent. They beat a Power 5 team. Like, I could understand even this year, you put maybe one of them in. You put Tulane in, whatever. But the AAC wasn't very good, quite frankly. And I just don't get that. That's the problem more to me. How cool would this tournament be if it was, let's say, Vandy was in and Notre Dame was in, right?
Yeah.
Like it'd be just way better. It's that's the problem with this playoff. I know that everybody always wants to see Cinderella, but it's only really good in the NCAA tournament. And if you truly get to the Final Four as a Cinderella, you deserve it, right? You've won so many games. If someone can properly explain to me how JMU is deserving to be in this, I'd like to hear it. No one wants to see them. It's just not. That's the problem.
And one thing I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, what would have worked pretty well this season? A 14 playoff. You know what I mean?
This is why that's a good point. And I would say let's do one further. If you want to do a 12-team playoff, fine. Let's use BCS though to pick it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because isn't it about the 12 best teams?
In my opinion, yeah.
Like let me ask you, Drew, who's a better team, BYU or JMU?
Probably BYU.
Not probably, they are.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Let me ask you this. what would you make the line? Final game of the season, regular season, Penn State, JMU.
This year?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. I'd probably be a tight one, to tell you the truth.
On a neutral field.
Yeah.
I'm gonna explain though. Penn State would be a favorite. They would.
They probably would. You're right. I mean,
I'm gonna ask you, who's a better when you look at the whole roster, who's better, JMU or Penn State?
Oh, top to bottom of the roster, sure.
Right. I'm trying to understand how we can, and I'm not saying that should be thrown in it, but how is JMU in this? No one has answered the question. It's just they are. Why though? Why are they in this? Especially when Tulane is also in this.
Yeah, the whole conference championship thing. Yeah, for sure. Well, we got to get back to the games, but no, great. Love the comments there, Jeff. And are you okay going Miami, Texas A&M?
Sure.
Okay. And the reason I ask, guys, is because in rotation order, it's opposite for some reason. But we'll go in order of kickoff. 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. It is the second college football playoff game. And for what it's worth, in my opinion, the most intriguing one, the one that I'm most excited to watch, it's Miami and Texas A&M. We are seeing the Aggies -3.5 as the home favorite, 48 and a hook being the total. If you shop around and you like Texas A&M, you can find a -3 flat. I'll tell you this, Jeff, before I throw it over to you. It's home of the 12th man. However, it's an 11 a.m. kick on Saturday. I actually think that helps Miami. They played in a lot of early games. Plus their quarterback, Beck, he transferred from the SEC. He's going to be used to maybe not this type of environment, but he's definitely been in tough environments before. So I'll throw it over to you, man. Fun one here. Texas A&M -3, -3.5, hosting Miami.
Yeah, I'm happy Miami got in. I obviously they had their game or two where they didn't look great, but I think they match up really well in this one. And yeah, I like Miami here. And that's not to shortchange A&M. They've had a good season. I think their defense is really tough. They've got a great offensive line, which matches up well against a really good Miami defensive line. I think the under is a great play. I think a lot of people are leading over, but I thought this was like a really, again, kind of stout, methodical defensive battle. I thought A&M's defense kind of looked better towards the end of the season, last couple games or two. But I thought the game against Texas was pretty indicative of A&M's kind of fraudulent, right? Miami has an efficient quarterback. They have a great defensive line, a really underrated defense. They can match up with the athleticism that this SEC program is going to bring. Throw in, 9-2 this year against the spread. Miami was very good in that role, and they weren't much as an underdog either. This is a really close matchup to me. I think the number's probably fair, but if you're going to give me 3.5 with, to me, a team that can match right up with A&M, I'm in there. I'm going to lead Miami here. I think they win the game.
I'm leaning towards the U as well, Jeff, as we got next one up, the middle matchup here on Saturday, Tulane and Ole Miss. We are seeing hotty toddy. That's the Ole Miss Rebels. -17. Some shops showing -17 and a hook. 56 and a hook being the total. So we get the Green Wave heading to Oxford, Mississippi in a rematch. Tulane and Mississippi here, Jeff.
Yeah, I remember the first time these two teams played, Drew. I had the over 50. I think it was 57 and a half. It fell 45-10. Tulane just did nothing offensively. And I ask, how will this game be any different? I heard someone say that they were never truly impressed with Tulane this year, and I agree. Neither was I. I don't think this wasn't a particularly good conference. There was a lot of just kind of top-heavy groups. They stepped up one time and lost. They got blown the hell out. That game was 45-3 pretty late. Retzlaff had 56 passing yards in the first game. Chambliss did what he wanted through the air. He was great on the ground. Deuce Alexander was efficient. 4 receptions for 94 yards and a touchdown. I don't want to go much higher than this number, but yeah, I have no interest in Tulane. I don't really see what they'll do different. Maybe Retzlaff's a little bit more effective, but I think Ole Miss has a real chip on their shoulder. And being at home here, that I think aids them here. And I think their defense was actually better, way better than I thought it would be. Towards the beginning of the year, they struggled, but I think they've seen Retzlaff once. I think that will be huge here, especially with time to prepare. Pete Golding is kind of a defensive guy. He'll be the leader. I think him having the job long term is great. I like Ole Miss here.
And I just got to play devil's advocate, Jeff. I mean, with the Lane Kiffin saga, having a little time in between it, do you factor that into this handicap at all?
In terms of like the team, or
just when you say like, I don't see anything different. Well, I mean, Lane Kiffin isn't there. I don't know if that.
Sure. I mean, obviously that's true, but I don't know if much changes. I still think, if you really talk about a team, the coordinators are almost just as important. And I still think they have the talent, that they have and that could almost help them too. He's out of the picture now. That charade is gone. It's over. I think it'll help them, if anything.
That's an astute point by you, Jeff. I have a friend, and his little brother plays Division I football, a heck of an athlete. And I brought up to him, I said, the coach is leaving, this and that. And he's like, man, it's really not about the head coach. Like if you're not on that side of the football, you don't even really interact with the head coach all that much. It's more about the coordinator and your position coaches. What are they doing? Pay attention to that.
And that's a great point. I also think it's very telling that Charlie Weiss returned, the offensive coordinator. Yeah. I think he probably thought, you know what? I'm happy here. I get to do what I want. I think this will be helpful long term. I'm always going to be in this guy's shadow if I go there. And I just don't want to be a part of it. He comes back. Him and Golding, I think, are a really nice duo. And I think to throw in, not only does the team have a chip on their shoulder, Trinidad Chambliss has a chip on his shoulder. He was at Ferris State, which is Division II team, which, by the way, the fact that they're a Division II team is insane. Like, they're like way better than everybody else in Division II. But I like Ole Miss here. I think they're an interesting team going forward.
All right, we got the nightcap for Saturday. It is JMU and Oregon. Going by your previous comments, Jeff, I'm thinking which way you're leaning. We got the Ducks 3 touchdown favorites, -21, the heaviest favorite in the first round of the playoffs. 47 and a hook being the total. Of course, JMU going cross country, Pacific Northwest. They are catching 3 touchdowns. Are you liking anything in Eugene?
Yeah, so I played this was the first bowl bet I made. Any bowls, playoffs, anything. Under 50.5 I played. It's down to 47.5. I don't see, I think JMU's a great under team in this type of game because I think they're really going to struggle to move the ball. Oregon is just better, faster, more athletic. They're a really good defense. And I think it's going to be made with time to prepare. It's going to be very hard on JMU's offense. I think the best part of JMU, though, that defense is really good. I mean, they are stout. They allow nothing on the ground. I think they're going to make life difficult on Dante Moore. I think this game's a real chess match for like a quarter or two. And look, Chesney wants to run the ball. He did it at Holy Cross. He did it at JMU. I think at any rate, you're always going to get a good defensive performance by JMU. I don't know if Oregon's like overly impressive offensively this year. I thought this was like 31-10, 34-13. I think the under 50.5. I really like this play a lot. I think this is just this could be 27-7, something like that. I think JMU really struggles to move the ball.
College football playoffs. Looking towards the under, you got a good number there, Jeff. Guys, we'll hit Monday and Tuesday's card for the bowl games. This is every game on the board. He's Jeff Nadeau. Check out his podcast, The Sit Down Podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. You can follow me on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts. Thanks for all the comments here. We got Let's Get a Win. Brayman in the house. What is up, buddy? Saying love Huff at Memphis. So agreeing with you there, Jeff. Anything else, guys? Feel free to chime in either live on YouTube or Twitter or in the comments below if you're watching on replay. All right, next bowl up Monday, December 22nd, the Idaho Potato Bowl, Albertson Stadium, Boise, Idaho. This is where Boise State plays their home games on the blue turf. 2:00 Eastern, 2:00 Eastern on Monday here. Some people going to be watching at work. It is Utah State -1.5 to as high as -2.5 as the quote unquote home favorite, 50 and a hook being the total. Washington State, Utah State, tight matchup here in the by the odds makers, Jeff.
Yeah, this is another under I like, 50.5. I mean, you look at Wazoo, their coach left already. He went to Iowa State, Rogers. A lot of their guys have already opted out. They're not going to have much of anybody. Top corner, top linebacker, their top receiver, one of their defensive linemen. And then they have a couple of guys out. Who knows who plays for them? I think on both sides, they're going to be just kind of a shell. Not a real good offense to begin with. I think defensively, they're probably most capable. Utah State, they're not going to have their top receiver, Braden Pagan. They have a pretty strong thought on opt-outs as well. Mendenhall stated that if you're in the transfer portal, you're not playing. So it's not one of these things where you can like transfer but still play. So they're not going to have him. I mean, he was a big-time player for them. I just felt like this was kind of a 24-20 type game. I thought 50.5 was too high. I don't really have much on the side. It's just kind of one that I don't see a ton. I thought Utah State was much better offensive or much better defensively this year. I thought they did a nice job. They were really good towards the end of the season. Did a good job against UNLV. We're pretty solid against Boise defensively. They're not that kind of shootout team they were a year or two ago. I think I think this is an under game.
Turning the page to Tuesday, December 23rd, the Boca Raton Bowl, Flagler Credit Union Stadium in Boca Raton, Florida. This is where FAU plays their home games. Nice stadium there for like the G5 schools, one of my favorites. But either way, this is an early kick Tuesday, 2:00 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, Toledo and Louisville. We are seeing Louisville -6 and a hook as the quote-unquote home favorite. 45 being the total. So ACC versus the MAC conference, Louisville laying just under a touchdown here in Boca Raton, Jeff.
Yeah, I did get a better number here. I hate to kind of do that. I did get 7.5 here. I did play Toledo. I look at Louisville. I mean, who the hell's playing for them outside of Moss? I mean, their top receiver is injured, is out for the year, torn ACL. All their running backs, it's questionable that any of them will play. I really just wasn't a big Louisville guy really at any point. And, Toledo, I feel like, I don't know. I wasn't a big Jason Candle guy. I thought a lot of the times, though, they would get up for these types of games. They hired a new coach. That's exciting for them, obviously. Their coach, he was at Mercer. He was really good. They won that conference both years he was there. He went from, I think, Division II to FCS, now at Toledo, Mike Jacobs. So you look at that team, you should get a pretty good group in there as far as this is a MAC team against an ACC team. They have a good defense. This is a top 10 scoring defense in America. They have a great secondary, good group of receivers and skill position players. And I think this line's telling us that they're going to have pretty much everybody. So, I got it above a touchdown. I like Toledo here.
I like the Rockets as well. I know Western Michigan won the MAC, but I feel like Toledo was the best team in the MAC. They came on late and they really dominated. I like where you're going with that, and good number on the Rockets. All right, 2 games left here. Tuesday, 5:30 Eastern. This is the New Orleans Bowl, Caesars Superdome, New Orleans, Louisiana, where the Saints play their home games. So a dome, fast track, controlled climate. It's Western Kentucky and Southern Miss, again, 5:30 Eastern, -5.5. That's the Hilltoppers as the favorite, 57 and a hook being the total across the board. WKU and Southern Miss in New Orleans.
Yeah, I don't have much on this one. I do like West Kentucky a little. Obviously, we talked earlier, Southern Miss's coach Charles Huff took the job at Memphis, so he's gone. Blake Anderson, who's been around the Sun Belt for a while, he's going to take the job. West Kentucky has pretty much no opt-out as far as I've seen. Southern Miss, you'd have to figure will with their coach leaving. I know he was a fan favorite there. A lot of the kids that he had there were with him at Southern Miss. Maybe they leave. I don't know. This is just a game I didn't really have much on. I made the number 4.5. So, I would lean West Kentucky just because I think they're going to have a more kind of conducive team, but I don't really know who will be in for Southern Miss. So it's a hard one. And I'm not crazy about laying a touchdown-ish with West Kentucky. They're just not a team I'm real high on long-term.
All right, we got one bowl game left for this episode here, guys. We'll try to get a best bet out of Jeff. The last game we're talking here, the nightcap on Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. It is the Frisco Bowl, Ford Center at the Star, Frisco, Texas, UNLV, and Ohio. Again, I believe this is the same location that we talked about earlier, the Cowboys practice facility, kind of a small venue, fast track there. -6.5, that's the Running Rebels as the favorite, 65 being the total. Mountain West versus the MAC again, heading to Frisco. UNLV laying just short of a touchdown here, Jeff, against the Ohio Bobcats.
Yeah, I played this one. I think in the bowls, you always have to be willing to, if you get the wrong info. I mean, this game's still a week or so away. I like the over. I played 64.5. Two teams that I think I would assume in good weather should be throwing it around. I mean, Ohio has a good quarterback in Navarro. They've got some good skill guys, struggled at times defensively against, out of conference type teams. Yeah, I still remember, one of the first games of the year. I mean, that Rutgers game was a shootout. They didn't exactly play like great offenses either all year. I think they definitely kind of get shredded here against a really good UNLV team who sounds like they're going to play pretty hard for Dan Mullen. They seem to like him there. He hasn't left. That's a great offense too. I mean, the quarterback Calandria was great. They've got a lot of skill kids that you like. And that's a place that you'd probably want to remain if you're a college football player. And the total's being bet up, so I feel like I got the right play there. I will point out, caveat here, Ohio, their coach was relieved of duties due to what they call serious misconduct, whatever that means. I think that helps considerably here because I would imagine that would be seen that they hated him as a coach. I don't know what exactly he did there. That seems a bit concerning, but I would have to figure that would probably be good for this group. I don't know if you've heard anything about that, but it sounds like he's got some real issues there.
I actually didn't, Jeff. That's what I love about this podcast. I mean, I have it. I just wrote it down in my notes, and I'll tell you, with everything with the Michigan head coach and coaches being dismissed, man, there's a lot going on here. You need a sit-down podcast about some of this stuff.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it sounds like serious professional misconduct, participating in activities that reflect unfavorably on the university. And then, again, I'm just putting this out there. Supposedly, it had something to do with a similar situation to Sharon Moore, where he was engaged in some sort of relationship with some sort of staffer or like student or something. I don't know exactly, but he's gone. I would imagine, there's a lot of rumors going around that it had something to do with some sort of student. So, yeah, I would imagine that's not good.
Jeff, these guys making all this money, and it's like, why are you doing that? You know the rules. You know what I mean? It's like, man, you need some guardrails.
Because and I'm being honest here, any problem that a man generally has to do with his inability to say no to a beautiful woman. And that's why I will always say, and I don't consider this misogynist or sexist at all, a beautiful woman can get whatever she wants in this world because men are weak, right? even the guy, like, listen, I'm not one of these people. Like, I think anybody would be, a beautiful woman is, hard to, it's hard to focus. She can kind of maybe get over on you on things. And listen, I mean, I don't know if I'm just being real. Have you seen Brian Smith or no?
No.
The coach
Not off the top of my head.
The coach at Ohio. I mean, I don't know. Like, he's an older guy. He's in his 40s. He's not exactly, it's not exactly
Lane.
Yeah, he's not Lane Kiffin exactly.
Okay.
I'm sure a young, you have some sort of staffer or intern or something, a decent looking younger person. I mean, older men like younger women. I mean, again, if he's a single man, yeah, I mean, I don't see much wrong with it, but again, he has a certain level to uphold as a coach, and it's just it's not something you should be doing. So, but yeah, I don't generally blame men when it comes to, I mean, beautiful women are beautiful women, and I still think like the Sharon Moore thing, and I'll say this till the cows come home. I think it's pretty clear that Sharon Moore's wife and him have some sort of, wouldn't surprise me, like open type relationship. Because it just seems like that whole situation like got way too crazy. I don't think she cared. But yeah, it's just a weird story. Two weird stories, to be honest.
For sure. And it's almost two different things. When I said like put up guardrails and you bring up beautiful women, it's more about like them being your subordinate. If you're in charge of how much they make, and it's not only with football, it's across workplaces across this country. It's just kind of like that's a rule, Yeah. So and if you're making all that money and you want to keep the job, it's just like follow that one guardrail. You know what I mean, Jeff? But hey, like 100%. You said, a lot of guys can't. So great points overall, man. Hey, awesome podcast, jam-packed with information on the next week's bowl games and college football playoff. He's Jeff Nadeau at Jeff Nadeau on Twitter. He's got the Sit Down podcast. Jeff, do you have a best bet circled here? One that you like a little bit more than the others?
Yeah, I do. And I think this would be one that I would definitely move on now. There's a 6.5 still out there. Navy at Cincinnati. This is the what bowl is this? Liberty Bowl. Brennan Sorsby. We're not going to see him. And look, I'm always a fan of military schools and bowl games. I think if there's one group of people that you're not going to see opt-outs from, it's from these teams. I thought Navy was terrific really all season. Great quarterback. All those guys are seniors, Heidenreich and their quarterback and all those kids, pretty solid defense. I think Navy goes out on top. I'm always a big fan of backing them in bowl games. They're always very effective. They don't opt out. They're not going to be dumb and commit bad penalties or get suspended before the game. And I think Cincinnati, I really thought towards the end of the year, they looked very average. And I think the only thing that really looked good about them was their quarterback. And you look at Cincy, Drew, going into the last 4 games, 0-4 over the last 4 games, lost 3 of them by double digits, lost 2 of them at home. They just didn't look good. And I think without Sorsby, I don't see much interest in Cincy here. And I think this number is going to keep going up. I think it's 6.5. It's still a good play. I would back Cincinnati. I would also tell you one other one, a Pitt as well. I think that's a pretty good play. Anything under 10. ECU, Caton Hauser's transferred. They lost their offensive and defensive coordinators. I don't really know what you get from that group. I think Pitt is pretty motivated, pretty good defense. They've got not one, but 2 quarterbacks that can move the football. And I'll just throw one more out. Why not? North Texas. Reese Poffenberger is just as good a quarterback as Mestemaker. They can really run the football. San Diego State, Drew, is one of the worst quarterbacks in America. I mean, Jaden Denigal is dreadful. I mean, he is brutal. I like North Texas too.
Man, that Navy game, there's been a huge move towards the midshipmen. The market obviously agreeing with what you're talking about. I thought you brought up great points too. I mean, Sorsby, I thought he was a great quarterback if he's not playing. Plus the fact you brought up the Bearcats losing, 4 straight games. They had their eyes on something bigger. This is going to be a tough one to get up against. And going up against the military academy, I like that Navy.
I'll point out to you, I don't do this a lot, but I think, the goal is generally, getting rid of juice, avoiding juice when you can, trying to, take situations that are difficult to bet into. I did play, and again, it's not for everybody. Pittsburgh Navy, moneyline parlay, just have to win. I put a big position on that, like big. I think both are very safe. and Navy for that matter, just straight up. I'm a big Navy guy. I like them in bowl games. I got to look through the history. I'll throw in like Army, like they're a favorite in this bowl game, but I thought they played really well towards the end of the season. And they got a UConn team that is kind of a total new unit there. They got a new coach coming in, so yeah, I like bowl military schools and bowl games.
Like it, Jeff. Yeah, tough to argue with that little two-teamer, Navy and Pitt. Well, Jeff, hey man, great podcast. Is there anything else you want to throw out before we shut this down?
No, I really appreciate it. It was fun all year doing this. I always like to kind of set aside Wednesdays to do this, have some fun, talk about all these games, have some conversation. And, Drew, I would say the saddest I am during the year is like late January when you realize that you have like 8 more months until college football's back. It's definitely hard to think about. But, the way years go, I mean, before we know it, it'll be August, and we'll be planning for another season. And I think this year is cool in the summer because you get the World Cup this year, which I'm a big fan of. So you do have something that between June and July really space the summer up. It really makes the summer go a lot quicker. So it's fun doing this, and I don't know, maybe we'll do another one doing the playoff games once we get more info. I don't know, but if it is the last one, I'm already looking forward to next year.
Absolutely, man. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Oh, yeah,
Jeff. Always, bringing the heat. And I'm a listener to the Sit Down podcast. So guys, go check it out. And obviously, if you're new to Every Game on the Board, Apple, Spotify podcasts, Every Game on the Board, also on YouTube and Twitter here.
I will say, Drew, I thank you for always shouting out the show. I will say probably by next year this time, the Sit Down I'll probably say goodbye to. I'm getting closer and closer to kind of finishing that chapter of my life. It's been fun, but I'm ready to kind of move on and just simplify my life a little bit more. So,
all right, man. Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, and I liked what your thoughts were on in terms of football ending. I always say, a lot of people say the day after the Super Bowl is kind of the worst of the calendar year because you have so much time. I say the day after the national championship because there's only so many more NFL games. And then by the time the Super Bowl ends, March Madness is right there, conference tournament time. So it's a fun time to bet. But this summer with the World Cup, man, I'm down to do some shows with you. I'm planning on going to a game or two down in Mexico, I think, and maybe, in the US, but I can't wait to bet on some World Cup, man. Is there any teams you got circled?
Yeah, I wouldn't say just yet. I think it's still very early. I mean, we're still very knee deep in the domestic seasons as far as club teams and, the injuries. Yeah. There's always some tournament, whether it's AFCON or whatever. Not yet. Obviously Spain is going to lead, I think, your outright markets, but I'll find someone or something to back. And you said it all, Drew, as far as like going to these games. I'm not a big like going to game kind of person anymore, but you figure this will be in the summer. It'll be great atmospheres. There are going to be games in Philadelphia and like New York, New Jersey area. So yeah, I'll definitely be going to one. I think it's really just about the pageantry, right? It's cool to be a part of a World Cup. I mean, you look at some of the teams in the World Cup, Drew. I mean, some of these nations like Cape Verde. I mean, that's pretty unbelievable that like they're in the World Cup. A lot of people don't even realize that's a country, Uzbekistan, Senegal, Norway. I mean, it's just cool, So yeah, I'll definitely be at some of these games, and maybe we'll do some previews.
For sure. At Jeff Nadeau on Twitter, the Sit Down Podcast. Jeff, awesome stuff, man, and enjoy the holidays. Merry Christmas to you, buddy.
You too, and all the best to your family and to the listeners, and Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that does it for Every Game on the Board. Thanks for tuning in, and cash those tickets.